Following the 48-hour ultimatum given to the French ambassador by the Nigerian authorities to leave Niger, that ultimatum expired yesterday, and the French ambassador is still there. He hasn't left. There were rumors that the military authorities cut all utilities to the embassy. They cut water, electricity, and everything. This is not yet confirmed, but the people of Niger have continued to protest in front of the French embassy to show them that it is the people that legitimizes a government. Yes, as you can see from these posters, since France said they don't recognize the military authorities because they are not the legitimate government in power, that they were not elected, people are trying to tell them that no, if the majority of the people are behind the military, the people have already legitimized the military in power. Yes, that's the reality on ground that many people don't want to admit. When a military coup succeeds, it becomes a revolution. If they didn't succeed in taking over power from Bazoum, maybe they will now be facing a court-martial.
Nous sommes des démocrates, donc nous sommes pour que la démocratie continue, mais la démocratie a été piétinée pendant 12 ans. Sous nos yeux, nous avons été muselés, le peuple ne pouvait plus s'exprimer aisément, nous n'avons plus le droit de manifester comme aujourd'hui.
Yes, even some politicians like this lady have joined the protest to show France and other external forces, including ECOWAS leaders, that are mounting pressure on the military to return Bazoum to power, that it is the people that actually legitimizes a government, not the other way around. In other words, despite the military coming to power through the back door, through a wrongful way upheld by the constitution, they have succeeded in doing that and have thrown away the constitution. And majority of the people are now backing them. Not saying that 100% of Nigerians are backing the military, but if they're able to get like 60%, 70%, would that not be comparable to a democracy where you go to elections and the politician scores about 55% and is declared winner? They are not actually the same, but the most important takeaway is people's power. If the people of Niger say, hey, despite these people coming through a military coup, we still love them, we like the way they govern, we are supporting them 100%, especially the fact that they are now seen as fighting for their emancipation, fighting against a former colonial power. Is France really a former colonial power? It seems they continue to see Niger as their territory, going by the statements of Macron. We'll come back to that in a moment. The more they mount pressure on the military authorities, the more they gain support from Nigerian citizens, because most of them can't understand why the French ambassador will refuse to leave Niger after 48 hours. Will any African ambassador try that in France without being forced to leave the country? Yes, this kind of action will make people forget about their political differences and back the military regime, because they can't understand why someone will say he won't leave their country. We are talking about a sovereign country here. They give you an order, say, hey, leave our country for the moment, leave. And you are saying you can't leave, that you don't recognize their authority to sack you, to tell you to leave their own country. The audacity.
On ne reconnaît pas les putschistes. On soutient un président qui n'a pas démissionné.
Now, let's see what Emmanuel Macron said in the press conference he held on Niger. He said that France will continue to support the former president Bazoum, who, by the way, hasn't resigned. Let's analyze this before seeing other things he said. They have a right to back whoever they want in Niger, but the reality on ground is that he is no longer in power. The military authorities are in power. And as the day goes, the chances of Bazoum returning to power diminishes. That's if there was any chance in the first place. Coming to whether he has resigned or not, that's for the courts in Niger to decide, not Emmanuel Macron of France. Let's assume the military authorities in Niger get on with the transition program to civil rule, and they eventually hold elections and the new president is elected. Bazoum reserves the right to approach the constitutional court in Niger and table to them, hey, I haven't resigned, I haven't finished my term. Return me to office so that I'll finish my tenure, after which the newly elected president can take over. If the honorable justices of the Constitutional Court in Niger agrees with him, they can return him to power or say, no, there was a decree the military passed, and that decree is binding on everyone. You can no longer be president. No democratic approach can be better than going to court to seek redress. So they should not capitalize on this and say, hey, for the fact that he hasn't resigned, we are invading to put him back to power. He is the one that is recognized by the constitution. No, 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 no. The military boys are above the constitution. That's the reality. Once a coup succeeds, they throw away the constitution and govern by decrees. Talking about who is legitimate or not doesn't arise. And besides, they are a sovereign country. Let them not capitalize on any excuse. They've been looking for that excuse all the time. One example is their embassy staff refusing to evacuate, most especially the ambassador himself, who was given 48 hours to leave.
Le problème des Nigériens aujourd'hui sont des putschistes qui les mettent en danger parce qu'ils abandonnent la lutte contre le terrorisme, parce qu'ils abandonnent une politique qui était bonne économiquement pour eux et qui sont en train de perdre tous les financements internationaux qui étaient en train de leur permettre de sortir de la pauvreté. C'est ça la réalité.
Emmanuel Macron also said that apart from all the politics that is going on, this one says this, this one says that, the most important thing and the reality in Niger right now is that they have abandoned a government that is good for their economy, that will lift their people out of poverty. And as a result of that, all the international aid agencies have left, that these people were committed to lifting the Nigerian poor people out of poverty. First of all, Emmanuel Macron's concerns are understandable. Anyone helping the poor needs to be commended. But you can't cry more than the bereaved. Yes, you can show your concern, but you cannot be more concerned than the people affected. They are saying, we know all these risks. Even the United States offered them money and other things. They refused. They told them openly, we don't need your money. Yes, they're simply telling you, mind your business. We know we have poor people, but we'll do it ourselves. We solve the problem our own way. Many people in Francophone countries believe that France contributes to that poverty because of their constant meddling in their affairs. When France looks the other way, they don't criticize any corrupt politician simply because they think that politician is their ally, that they can get whatever they want. And when you don't criticize, you don't hold any leader responsible for his actions, and there is poverty, you turn around and say, we are coming back to help you out of poverty. It doesn't make any sense. It's just like an outsider saying that they will invade France to remove Emmanuel Macron because he can't handle all the riots, all the protests in France all the time. Why are French people always protesting? Why are they always agitating all the time? You see on TV in Paris, they are boarding up shops because of protesters. So a foreigner cannot say this to France. So why is France telling Nigerians that they don't recognize the military authorities despite their being in power already? So this is the problem. France feels they will lord it over Niger despite Niger being a sovereign country. They are simply telling you, allow us to handle our problems ourselves. Don't interfere in our affairs. All this back and forth will make the military men to garner more support. A greater percentage of Nigerians supporting the military might even lead to their staying in power much longer than they originally planned. Right now, they're saying 3 years to get back to democracy, which of course, after negotiations, they might come to the middle or even below that. But if they find out that they have majority of Nigerians behind them, that they have their support, they might start feeling, hey, no one is opposing us. We can do whatever we want. And the outsiders have no influence anymore because majority are backing the military. No dissenting voice. Opposition is non-existent. They can do whatever they want. You can understand Macron's frustration when he says things like the people didn't oppose the military coups that happened in Burkina Faso and Mali, that the lack of opposition, the way the ECOWAS leaders are hitting hard on Nigerians, that if that happened when the coups happened in other Sahel countries, that the coup won't be popular today, that military coup won't be spreading. It's just another way of a former colony expressing their frustration that they are losing ground, that they are losing their hold on their former colonies. Yes, it's very understandable. And if the Nigerian military succeeds in removing Niger from all the unfavorable agreements with France, who knows the next Francophone country to do the same? Who knows the person that will take up the mantle and say, no, we must rise and emancipate our people from France. We must correct all unlawful agreements with France that is not favorable to our country. This is the sentiment of the Francophone. Emmanuel Macron also reiterated that they support a diplomatic approach to solve the problem in Niger. He also said that they will support a military action if the ECOWAS leaders decide on that and calls on them to come and help them in the military intervention. This is not a secret at all. Everyone knows that Emmanuel Macron is mounting heavy pressure on Alassane Ouattara, the president of Cote d'Ivoire, to make sure that they contribute troops to the ECOWAS intervention force that will invade Niger. Alassane Ouattara was brought to power by the French army. Yes, that's basically how it happened.
French troops say they cleared the way during the attack, but stopped at the gates of Gbagbo's residence, leaving the final fight to Ivorian soldiers.
The French troops led the rebels to the presidential palace where the former president Laurent Gbagbo was captured. So it is time for Alassane Ouattara to return the favor to Emmanuel Macron. It's also not a secret that Macron is pressuring Tinubu. Tinubu himself confessed that. He said that he is under pressure from ECOWAS leaders and even external forces outside his control to make sure that there's an invasion of Niger. So these are known facts. Let him not try to hide under any excuse and say, hey, they called us, they did that. That was the plan from the onset. He wants to remove them by force because these guys cannot be negotiated with. They've set out their conditions and objectives. All the conditions they set have not been met by ECOWAS. They told ECOWAS to remove the sanctions, open the borders before any negotiations can take place. In return, they promised to release Bazoum. It's not clear if the ECOWAS leaders accepted the offer or they are making a counter offer. Also, the Nigerian authorities have stopped accepting visitors from neighboring Nigeria, Benin Republic, Ghana, Togo, and Cote d'Ivoire. Maybe this is a security measure. They don't want ECOWAS soldiers to come into their country as ordinary civilians and lie in wait until a military invasion happens. They will now join the invading force to fight them. In conclusion, France should understand that change is constant in life. Many people in Francophone countries have realized the power they have to challenge the status quo that have kept them poor. Whether France is directly involved in the mining of natural resources in these countries or not, the most important thing is that they back and support corrupt regimes. When they preach democracy and operators of democracy do not obey the rules, they don't sanction them, they are still their allies, they continue to support them, they are even willing to go to war on their behalf. Then, when the revolution comes, they will be affected because they are complicit. They are the people that give these people cover. So this is the main issue. They should take it like men. You don't win all the time. After all, they've been holding these countries down for decades, many years, since the colonial period. This is why fellow African countries should sit by and watch instead of fighting their own brothers on behalf of a foreign country. The fact that a military coup happened in Niger does not necessitate a military intervention in Niger. To go and do what exactly? Niger is not the first country to experience a military coup in Africa. Neither will it be the last. Because once politicians continue to rig elections, amend their constitutions to have third terms, and refuse to play by the rules in a democracy, there is bound to be a military coup. There is bound to be a revolution. Thanks for watching.